And also information that has just come in, the British Foreign Secretary David Lammy believes that there is still time for a diplomatic solution with Iran over its nuclear program. And this statement has come after David Lammy met with the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the White House. This after the White House said that there were substantial chances of negotiations with Iran. Lammy also reiterated that Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. All right, now joining us in the broadcast, we've got Ms. Asha Castlebury, who is a U.S. and national security and a foreign policy expert. She's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Now, Ms. Castlebury, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on this broadcast and beyond. And let me, in fact, start off by asking you about this latest statement that has come in from the White House, where we heard the spokesperson at the White House say that the American president has said that he'll make up his mind in the next 2 weeks. He'll make a decision in the next 2 weeks about whether to join this war or not. Why is there an obvious hesitation from the American president? Is he being indecisive here?
Well, first and foremost, the United States' strategic interest is to ensure that there is a ceasefire and then eventually end the war or the conflict between Israel and Iran. So with regards to the next 2 weeks, the White House is just monitoring the situation to where they'll see what happens between Israel and Iran. Also, there's a possibility, as mentioned earlier in your segment, that Iran may come to the table to engage in negotiations with the United States as far as ending the conflict, as well as relinquishing their nuclear ambition. So I think the 2 weeks is to see those two different objectives as far as how far would this conflict go, especially on behalf of Israel, and then bringing Iran to the table as far as trying to meet a ceasefire and possibly work on re-engaging on nuclear negotiations.
Interesting. Now, just a couple of days back, the American president in his post on Truth Social said that he wants an unconditional surrender from Iran. With that being the American president's position, what kind of negotiations can the American president now promise to the Iranian nation, which claims that it is fighting a war and it was Israel that actually attacked it?
Well, as far as the surrender comment, that is to just a way to bring them to the table. But in doing so, the only way that Iran, I believe, will come to the table is when they are no longer attacked. It's very hard to get Iran to the table if there's a tit for tat still going on between Israel and Iran. So that must be seen on behalf of Iran in terms of Israel has completely relinquished itself in terms of attacking Iran.
But do you think Israel will relinquish its strategy from attacking Iran? Because the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it pretty clear his intention is to bring about a regime change. He, in fact, has gone on and said that a regime change in Tehran will actually change the face of the Middle East. In your assessment, if in this war, the Israelis are able to effect some kind of regime change, will it actually change the face of the Middle East, and will it be better than the way it exists currently?
Well, as far as those comments go, that would be hard to achieve in terms of a significant regime change. However, if the Israelis are successfully targeting key leadership as it has done already in terms of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, or really being able to successfully target the Ayatollah, you may see a significant change in key leadership. So that is to remain to be seen. But still, again, I do believe that in order for Israel to completely disengage from this conflict, is that Iran has to do two things. One is to relinquish, commit to a ceasefire, relinquish its nuclear ambition, and the intelligence and open sources have to prove that to Israel.
Right. Now, my final question to you is this. At this moment, even Donald Trump's own Republican base seems to be split right down the middle. There are the likes of Ted Cruz who are very loudly calling for the United States of America to get into this war more actively, while there are many others who are in fact calling this out. They're saying that Donald Trump promised to put America first, and this is Israel's war and not America's war. In your assessment, how do you think Donald Trump can best keep his Republican flock together?
It will be very hard or difficult in doing so. But one way to actually build a consensus as far as going into this war is if Americans are actually targeted. As you can see, there has been some speculation that U.S. American assets are potentially targeted in this regional war. So that's a legitimate reason as far as one, more Americans would like for involvement. But as of now, there's a growing consensus that most Americans are not interested in this war, and there is a lack of consensus among the Republican Party. So with that being said, why is that so? Well, the American people feel that when they view this, they think of the Iraq invasion. They think of the long-term involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan. We are still suffering from war fatigue. So we're not necessarily interested in going into another war. So that's why you're seeing a split, especially amongst the Republican Party.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.